Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the September 12th, 2018 meeting of the Wilmington, Town of Wilmington Board of Appeals to order. It's 7:01. First docket entry is case 718, Bettering LLC, map 89, parcel 6A. And the applicant is requesting that the Board of Appeals continue the public hearing to its October meeting for special permit for 362 Middlesex Ave, map 89, parcel 6A. Now, I understand from speaking to one of the members, he's not going to be here at the regularly scheduled October meeting, which was the 12th, Tony?
I think it's the 10th.
10th. Was the 10th, okay. However, Tony, you will be available on the 17th, right?
Yep, the following week.
If everybody can just take a quick peek to see if that date could be considered as an alternate date, because I really am reluctant to have, there's a second applicant who's gonna be seeking a continuance as well, and I'm reluctant to have it kicked over, or to have a meeting without a full complement of board members here. So Tony says he's available on the 17th. If that's agreeable to the rest of the board, then I would request, or at least propose, that we do that. If that date is not available, then I'm probably going to suggest that we kick it over till November. That way,
The regular meeting.
the regular meeting in November, because there's been a number of continuances for this case, and apparently the continuances are based upon the fact they haven't been successfully through the planning board process. That's why it keeps getting continued.
Right.
So rather than schedule a separate meeting and have it continued again, if we can't do the 17th, then I would be inclined to request that we do it in November. Does October 17th work for everybody?
Can I have a question? So, how many other cases?
We have two.
Two other cases for the 10th.
For that,
For that
right,
10th.
for the 10th. But I just got them today because it's the deadline.
Right.
I haven't advertised, and I can call them and say we are moving it to the 17th a week later. And then, reschedule the meeting posting and do that. I've done it before, but I
I have no problem. We've been continuing this matter from meeting to meeting because it hasn't been through the planning board. And if we have a regularly scheduled meeting and they need to continue it again because they're not done, that's okay. I don't want to inconvenience the board and schedule a separate special meeting unless it works for everybody, number one. And number two, I don't want to have a special meeting just for these continued matters, because then if they need a continuance again, we're wasting your time publicizing and everything else. So does the 17th work for everybody?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to continue this particular application to a meeting to be held on Wednesday, October 17th?
I'll make a motion to continue case 7-18 to the newly scheduled meeting on the 17th.
October 17th.
October 17th.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we are canceling the meeting, the regularly scheduled meeting on the 10th,
And rescheduling.
rescheduling it to the 17th, and the case 1718, the Bettering LLC, map 89, parcel 6A, has been continued to that 17th date.
And I will inform the applicant.
Okay, so that matter is continued.
So that's that one.
Now, we have a similar situation with the
That's
next
the
case
next.
on the docket, which is 1318 Noria Energy Retail Incorporated, map 44, parcel 178D, and this is to acquire a special permit in accordance with 3514 car wash for a property located at 220 Main Street. And we have a request dated September 6th from the applicant requesting that this matter be continued to the next scheduled meeting date of 10/10. Now, I'm going to suggest that, first of all, Tony, I'm assuming that the 17th would be good for both of these applicants. That's assuming that would be
Right.
good. I'm suggesting that we do the similar thing with this application, and schedule it
For the 17th.
for October 17th.
So moved.
I would need to have a motion from the board to do that?
So, I'll make a motion that case 13-18 be rescheduled for October 17th.
To our newly scheduled meeting for October 17th. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, case 1318, the car wash, map 44, parcel 178D, is likewise continued to the newly scheduled meeting for Wednesday, October 17th.
And what
Okay.
I'll do is I will let them know, and I will send you copies of what I send to them so that,
And just to let you know, if either of the applicants, we're kind of doing this on the fly here,
Yeah.
if either of the applicants can't do it, then we're just gonna have to put them on for November.
For November.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. And that
Can I just
leaves,
add that it would probably, when you inform the two new ones,
Yeah.
it would be in their best interest anyways, because.
Right, because they haven't been even heard yet. I
Yeah.
haven't even sent it to the newspaper. That goes right. That's why I said I have plenty
So
of
it'll
time to
work
change.
out,
Yeah.
it'll work out the best.
yeah, I'm just trying to, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to accommodate the board, I'm trying to accommodate the applicant, but I'm also trying to be realistic, and I don't wanna necessarily be scheduling new meetings, them not being able to do it. I'm trying to keep it streamlined. So let the applicants know that if they can't make the 17th, that the 10th is canceled.
Okay.
If they can't make the 17th,
That's what you can.
if they can't make the
This is a
17th,
copy
Tony,
of the planning board stuff.
let them know that if
That
they
if they
can't make the 17th, they're gonna have to wait till November.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna say, because we have one member that cannot make it on the 10th.
Right, I'm assuming that all these applicants wanna have a full complement of the board.
I'm assuming too.
Okay.
Was
Err on
this
the- err on the-
That's
one
for
of-
the next one.
Err on
Oh,
the,
no,
uh,
no, he's
Oh.
got it, right.
Basis of caution.
I figured
Okay.
I'd give you a
Oh,
copy
those
of
are
it.
those are copies for us.
It just gave copies to them. It's on top of that.
All right, the last case on the docket is case 1618, Kenneth and Charlene Rossetti, map 36, parcel 338, to acquire a variance from standard dimensional regulations, table 2, section 5.2.5, for an addition to be 34 feet from the front yard on Kansas Road when 40 feet is required for the property located at 8 Russell Road. Do we have the applicants here? Come on up. Introduce yourself. Let us know what you're looking for. Howdy.
Hello. So we're trying to do a 16 by 16 addition. It's actually.
What's your name,
I'm sorry,
ma'am?
Charlene Rossetti.
Okay, Charlene, and you are
Ken Rossetti.
Hi,
Yes,
guys.
how you doing?
Hello.
What you looking for?
A 16 by 16 addition on the side of our house. So it's actually on the side road. We're a corner lot. When we started this process, to be honest with you, had received, our setback used to be 20 feet, but then I guess the road, I think in 2009, the setback changed. So we found that out. Originally, when we started this process, we thought it wouldn't be an issue, but then that's why we're here for the variance. And you can see that our lot is a little odd shaped, more like a triangle. So it's actually just the back right corner that needs the variance. It's not the whole structure, because the shape of our lot is a little different.
Okay. Now, since you're seeking a variance, I'm assuming that you've been informed with what the difference between a special permit and a variance is. Did somebody tell you? No. Okay, let me give you the quick down and dirty. A variance is special relief, that you're requesting that basically we ignore the rules as they apply to you and give you something that violates the rules because you have a special situation that presents a hardship on you. And the hardship can't be really financial. It has to be either the soil conditions, the shape of the lot, the topography of the lot, ledge, something really unique that allows us to say, yeah, you guys are really in a special spot here, and you're different than everybody else, so you know what, we're gonna let you slide by the rules that we apply to everybody else, because you're kind of in a different spot and you have a hardship.
Okay.
So for us to that being said, that's the general standard. Variances are rarely given by the board because basically you're looking for an exception to the rule. So for us to give it to you, you have to articulate a hardship, along the lines that I just said. So they're kind of rarely given. It's one of those things where, okay, you know, these guys are in a jam, and because of their lot, they're really kind of stuck, and they deserve to have the rules kind of waived for them. So tell us what your hardship is on this lot that would justify that.
I do think the shape of the lot, it's very different than most I mean, I have like the shape of the neighborhood. It's very different than most of the lots in the neighborhood. It's, you know, because of that, the addition, like I said, it's not the whole structure, it's the back corner because of the shape of the lot is more like a triangle than, which most lots are usually square. So, you know, we're looking for 6 feet of variance. And something we didn't put in there, which I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but where our lot line is and where Kansas Road is, the curb of Kansas Road, there's actually 10 more feet of grass area. And I did bring pictures, I don't know if you wanna see them or not. That, I don't know if that does make a difference, but there is like 10 more feet before you hit the curb.
This goes by your lot line.
Yes.
What they do is, most roads, just, because I've been explaining
Yes.
this so many, most roads are laid out 40 feet wide. They don't pave 40 feet. So that's usually why the curbing might give you an extra 5, 10 feet in
Okay.
your front or your sides.
okay.
That's why they do that. But it's still roadway, even though it's
Right, okay.
grass.
It's considered roadway.
Yeah.
Tony, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When I've read this, and it says that it was originally constructed with a 20-foot setback, but that was 20 foot to the right of way, correct?
What happened was, back when they were developing all these properties, almost every lot in that area has a variance on it. The area, setback, this lot has it for lot area.
Correct.
Okay? When they built the house was built within the setbacks, and even to that street that wasn't paved. That street was not there. Well, probably, 7 or 8 years ago, they paved that for a lot up there.
But the
So
street
now-
was, but when the
Yes.
development was, there was a 40-foot right of way that was
yes.
planned there. So it looks like when they, I mean, coincidentally, they put the corner of the house right at 40.8 feet, so they
Right.
knew that there was eventually gonna
And
be a
that's what I'm
street there.
saying.
Yeah.
Even though they did that, for a while, with the building inspector and planning and stuff, like they were saying, the road's not there. A lot of the roads are never gonna be there. Unfortunately, this is one of the roads that ended up there. So once the road went in, now we have to go back to that 40-foot setback. Up to that point, if you notice the pool and the deck and stuff, it's like 20 feet.
Well,
And
it
they-
was
they-
20 feet because they,
Because, right,
I mean, but but the property line is the property line.
is the property line.
The extra 20 feet was a right of way, which really isn't part of the property.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. I
But-
just wanna make sure I
Yeah,
understood that.
Kansas Road actually did go in a year after, so we bought in 92. In 93, Kansas Road, actually 2 houses were built within the next year. And Kansas Road did go
That's-
in,
yeah, 'cause
yeah.
if you look,
And
some of them down there were never, ever done, like on Ohio, there's a bunch of them that go, but they just never put them in. So a lot of roads down there were never constructed. So they, was kind of the relief that the building inspector, over the years, kind of gave them a little leeway on that. But again, now that there's a road there, it's an actual road. Unfortunately, they have 2 frontages.
Does anybody else from the board have any questions for the applicant or any comments on this application? Nobody?
Well, I just have a question. Did you look at, you know, obviously, I mean, you can see the setback line. The only place you could possibly fit this within the setback would be the back left corner of the house.
That's where our septic is there?
Your septic system is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Where the
it's
septic
right
is.
where the septic is. And visually, I think visually it also, for the neighborhood, I think would look better from, you know,
Side.
on the side.
I don't have the, is the shape of the lot,
No,
is,
it's
is
right
that, is that
Yeah,
in
the
a-
shape of the lot is something
is-
that you, yeah, the shape of the lot is something that you can consider with a variance. And the applicant has indicated that the
Mhm.
shape of the lot is their
That
hardship
is
that they're
ours.
alleging
That's right.
for the application. When did that road go in?
When the original, a house was built like a year after us. I think I put in the letter, the
2002.
dates. 93 was the first house on that side, on Kansas Road. So Kansas Road went in, and then a second one went in the next year, sort of. I would have said Rhode Island, they called it Kansas. You know, all of our numbers and everything are a
All
mess
the
in that
streets are
neighborhood.
misnamed.
Yeah, everything is, so there've been two houses there for a long time, and then, like I said, we did receive permits after what I thought the road was in, but I guess they really weren't considering that the road was there.
Who told you that you only had a 20-foot setback?
Back when we originally got the permit,
Yeah.
It had to be with
Yeah.
Jim Russo, because it wasn't.
like I said, we did get
I
3
don't
different permits.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Based on
I
that.
think those, I mean, honestly, they were probably granted in error, you know,
Just so,
so- I mean, they were
I
granted in
have
error,
copies if you
so
need
it's,
yeah.
We've had this issue before, where an applicant gets something and there's been a mistake made, and they kind of rely on that ruling moving forward.
correct.
And you kind of, and the catch-22 is, do you continue the mistake, or do you give some, some leeway to the applicant for having relied on that erroneous, I mean, it's.
Well, that's why we're here. We did hear that it was no longer 20, and that's why we
mean,
are
I-
just looking for the 6 feet.
I mean, I think,
A variance.
you know, in my opinion, you know, a hardship's a hardship, but I also look at the severity of the relief that an applicant's asking for. And I think in the past, I think we have looked at some of these applications, not many, but some of them, and said that the relief being requested is very reasonable for the property. You know, this, you know, everybody's opinion may be different, but this may fall into that type of a category where the relief is pretty minimal. But, you know, everybody would have to render that decision on their own.
Well, let me read what the planning board has said about it, just to give everybody a little perspective. At its meeting on September 11th, the planning board voted to recommend as follows: case 1618 8 Russell Road. Upon motion duly made and seconded, it was unanimously voted to recommend that the Board of Appeals consider the following regarding hardship: whether the footprint of the proposed addition could be decreased to be constructed within the setback, and whether the proposed addition could be located elsewhere within the setback allowance. The planning board advises that the Board of Appeals not consider the existing nonconformities as justification for this variance request, since the now nonconforming accessory structures were built between 1992 and 2000 under different circumstances when the abutting roadway was not constructed. So the planning board's asking if you can somehow reconfigure this to fit within the setbacks. Is that possible?
We've looked into that, and we
It's basically
were,
be a 10 by 13.
like, it'd be pretty, and probably wouldn't be cost effective. I mean, 10 feet wide is pretty small. I don't,
But we're not, that's not
That's not a-
part of
Yeah.
what we need to
right.
vote on it for. I wanna know, how does it affect a variance on a variance?
Well, that's why they have to get a variance. Once the lot has a variance on it, it can't be non-conforming. The pool and the deck can be non-conforming. And probably if you took it down, you probably could not put it back.
Right,
All
okay.
right? Because it's one of those temporary things. But But with a house and with an addition, it's not temporary. So what happens is, you have a variance on the lot. In order to build, they got a variance. This
Okay.
is to put the house, and the house, it fits now. Everything fits, it meets the setbacks, and you're asking now to encroach into one of those setbacks. And the only way you can get that is by variance. It's not even a special permit. So it's a variance on a variance, and it's a little bit more difficult to find a hardship, because the house is there, and the
Right.
house already meets all the setbacks.
In your letter, you indicate that you were told that a road could never go in and houses could never be built behind you because of conservation land. Who told you that, do you know?
Well, the real estate.
The realtor, nobody from the town
No.
told you
No,
that?
no, you know, when you're
Yeah,
buying the
realtor.
land, I think they tell you.
Okay,
what-
but
Oh, yeah.
My-
A lot of
my-
people were told
No,
that.
the reason I question it is because I just wanted to know if it came from somebody from the town.
No,
Because that would
no.
make a difference to me if
Yeah,
it did.
no, it definitely, you know, because I was hesitant because it was a corner lot. I've always heard corner lots, you could run into different issues, and we were told, oh, no one could build, even beside us, and a year later, a house was put beside us.
Okay.
But they said absolutely no one could ever build behind you, it's conservation land.
There's a difference
Yeah.
between conservation and wetlands, but they
Right.
don't tell you the
No,
difference.
so, you know, it's just, it's
They just built
disappointing.
3 houses behind us.
Yeah.
Last year.
I think mine's more the hardship of the shape of the lot. It is different, it's not.
When they put that road in, did it affect anybody else's property? Did it slice it like that? Or create that kind of
No,
a?
no, no, no. I don't think so, no.
No,
I
further
have the
down,
map.
Further
I have
down,
there's a
yeah.
couple of lots like that with fun, odd shapes like that.
I have
like
a
at
map of the
corners and
neighborhood.
stuff like that, so.
Because I'm looking at the,
If you look at
I'm
the.
looking at the plan from '92 before the road went in, and it looks like a standard lot. I mean, it's a little,
No,
it's
'cause-
it's not perfectly symmetrical, but it's fairly standard. Now I'm looking at the one after the road
They
went in.
changed the lot though from that configuration to when they built the house. If you look at it.
Right.
It's not as wide at the top there where that, it's more, see how, it's only, I don't know how many feet. There's a little bit more, they took one of those lots out of there.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, that's what they were doing, they reconfigured all these lots, and there's some really odd shaped lots down there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the septic design from when we bought it, and it was that shape, the odd shape.
Yes, and what happened
that's
was
how-
that
that's how we
the
bought
first
it.
one
It
that
was-
they gave us, it showed it was even wider,
Okay.
Okay,
so.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's definitely.
Tony, what is this one from?
That there is from our GIS mapping of the area.
Because that shows the house in the wrong spot.
Sometimes when they overlay like that, it's
Okay.
not exactly
Mhm.
where it is, but if you notice though, it is the 20 feet from that lot line, so it looks pretty close when you go to those
Mhm.
GIS maps.
My thought off the bat is that it's not unique because there's other, there are several other lots that are similar. It's not just yours. I mean, we could count them up. I mean, there's at least 7 triangular ones, but there's also several other smaller lots.
I think there were a couple of lots they couldn't even find who owned them, right?
Yeah,
There were a couple
something
lots.
unknown.
I think the question becomes, I know I can see the other lots, however, I don't know, I mean, I have to really look at this, but where this abuts both roads, I think that's the issue, that 40 feet on this lot is taken away from you know, they're being.
But that's every corner lot
Right,
in town.
exactly. And, you know, well, I went through it myself, the 40 feet
Yeah.
on each side. It really condenses you in when you can really, even new construction, when you can put on a lot.
But new
having that.
construction, you can't get a variance
Right,
like
yeah,
back
correct,
then.
that's right.
But I
So-
think when you purchased it, you knew that it was unique at that point.
We did,
You do.
yeah, we did. Like I said, we also didn't think that road was going in when we purchased it,
Well,
but,
imagine going back then, though, when you bought it, you looked out and said, wow, look at this, it's all
Yeah.
woods.
yeah.
It's probably not gonna be developed in our time because of, who knows, like
No,
you
that
said,
is
maybe,
the-
if it was wetlands, it wasn't wetlands, under, you know, conditions, things change.
Mhm.
And, you know, everything looks 20 years ago like, it's not the same,
Not the
like
same.
they say, nothing stays the same.
Like everything.
So, I mean, you know, and I looked at it, what planning board's saying, however, you can't cut 6 feet off it to make it compliant, 'cause that means you only got a 10-foot addition out of 16 feet, which,
Can it go back so it's more rectangular than?
I was just trying to figure that one out myself.
Yeah, that, we were looking at that too. I
Yeah,
think
I
then
was
we just
trying
have to, we have to
see
come up
what-
and then
see
move
if that
probably
line
10
would
feet
make it,
that way.
you know?
I mean, I think what it comes down to is, you know, when you look at hardships on property, there's shape is one, and the topography, ledge, something like that is another one. And, you know, when you look at shape, to me, there's a imposed hardship that this builder back in the early 90s created himself by, you know, he shoehorned this lot
Right.
and got it as small as possible. So, you know, it is an odd shape, and they squeezed every last lot they could out of this development. You know, I just go back on, you know, yes, you know, it's an odd shape. You know, what is the severity of the hardship? I'm more inclined to look at something and say, you know, against better judgment, but is there, you know, is there really a detriment here to approving this? And, you know,
Yeah, but I don't think the detriment's a different standard, though.
I understand that. I understand that. You know, I could hang my hat on the shape of the lot, you know, in, is, you know, are there, you know, is there precedent that says that an imposed hardship or created by that lot, you know, would that hold up? Maybe not, but, you know, maybe they're asking for
So
something
the
reasonable.
question I have is, if the road was not put in, would there still be a problem?
Yes.
So the road isn't an issue one way or the
The
other.
property line was always there.
It's always there no matter what. So
Right.
putting the road in isn't an issue. Right? And I have another question.
Well, I guess you could
You-
say if the road was, I
Yeah,
guess,
we-
Tom, you could say if the road was never put in, the town may have continued to err on the side of enforcing a
You know,
20-foot
given a little bit less.
20-foot setback. If, because
Right.
we've seen, I think we had a case a couple of months ago where something came up, there was a shed or
Yeah.
something on the
Yeah.
side yard, and there was a swamp out back, and they knew that a road would never go in there, and I believe we approved it
Yeah.
on that basis. So I think there are, you know, there's different circumstances.
You had a question for me?
So what's your recommendation?
I think this is a tough one. I'm really struggling with it. I'm inclined to deny it because a lot of the conditions with the lot existed at the time that the folks bought it. I'm not convinced that there can't be some configuration that fits within the setbacks, or at least more so than this one does. So I take the advice of the planning board to heart. But I haven't quite decided yet. I guess I want to hear from the audience, the gallery. Does anybody wish to speak? I'm going to open up a public hearing. Sir, if you
Hi,
can.
my name's Gino DeVecchio. I live at 4 Russell Road, so I live right across from them.
Yep.
When I bought, I was told that no houses were gonna go there, so.
Same realtor?
By the realtor.
Same realtor?
Yeah, but they're good people. I've been there since 1991. They keep their yard nice. They told me they were doing an addition. I'm all for it. It's not that big in my eyes, 16 by 16. Once you close it in, it's really not that large. 10 by 13 is tiny. I mean, they're not looking for a 24 by 34. I can see, You know what I mean? So I think they're within their means. In 2000, I got a variance from this board, and I put an addition on the side, because all those lots are a little crazy in that area. So, I mean, the 10 feet you guys are talking about, that's road, he keeps it well maintained. So, I mean, they have a nice area there, they keep it nice.
The tough part for me is, I've been on this board for 12 years, and we've had a lot of folks come to us with requests for variances. Some of them were pretty heart-rendering stories. I mean, variances to do a ramp for a disabled veteran that lived, I mean, and they've been denied because the law, they just didn't comply, you know, they didn't satisfy the hardship standard. And there's been a lot of hard, tough decisions that we've had to make. And
Just so you know though, ramps, handicap ramps are exempt.
now,
Yeah.
right, yeah, that's good. So that won't happen again. But I mean, I guess my point is, there's been a lot of tough, really hard decisions that are made, and it's a slippery slope once you grant one. Even if it's somebody who's a appealing applicant, nice folks, that
Right.
looking for something, not that big of a deal, but, you know, then all of a sudden, the next guys that come in, we
Right.
say no, and they're gonna go, wait a minute, and we've had that, we had a case where an
Yeah.
attorney looked at me right in the face, and this board granted a variance, which I voted against, but they granted it, and he came in and said, wait a minute, you guys 3 months ago granted one here, and I went, like that. So, this is a tough one, they're all kinda tough, because they're never looking for anything outrageous, I mean,
Right.
you just wanna put a little
Well, that's
addition,
what
you know.
I mean, in that area, like you guys are saying, that my lot's like a hammerhead.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know who the hell, you know, I know it was
Where are you
residential.
located, sir?
4 Russell Road.
Right across the street from these
Yeah.
folks?
He would be the one looking at the addition.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I see that, I see
So-
that.
But, you know, I think
It's
presidential and northeastern
It
building
is a-
way back then, and, you know, I mean, there's like 50 houses in that development.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
Sir, what was your variance that the Board of Appeals allowed?
2-car garage with a room above.
And it was granted by this board, the Board of Appeals?
Yeah, this was in 2000.
But they also granted variance to build the houses down there too, just be aware of that. Not just additions and pools and stuff, the actual houses, most of them have a variance on it.
And they were
Most
all
of the
granted by
lots
the board?
were granted by the board.
And what was the hardship?
Because the way the roads turn, and it's not like straight.
I think,
it's
well,
just
I think
straight.
Tony may be able to confirm this statement that I'm about to make, but the standard for granting variances in the past history of the board has been rather flexible,
Yeah.
more flexible than it is now. I mean, like,
It's just one of those things, unfortunately, as every year passes, it gets harder and harder because you know, you've heard it all.
Yeah, no, I mean, originally, like I said, we thought it was the 20-foot setback still when we started this, and we were gonna try doing a 2-car garage with the
Right.
room
We
above,
realized
and
we
then
couldn't.
we came down and found out that no, it's a 40-foot, and so we tried.
I mean, it would be
It
great
would.
to be able to, honestly, to sit on this board, it would be wonderful to be able to say sure, you know, to every single one. And, you know, I'd probably make more friends, but on the other hand, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be doing the job. So this is a tough one,
One just quick thought is, I'm the one that's gonna be looking at it every day, and
I
I
hear
don't
you.
have a problem.
And I think that's fair comment.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who actually has to live with it is
Yeah.
here saying, I don't mind.
Right, thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to be heard? Sir, would you like to be heard on this? Okay, there's only 2 folks in the audience, so I figured I might as well ask. So, all right, that being said, I'll close the public hearing and I'll bring it back to the board for further deliberation, discussion, and potential vote.
You said if you went to 10 by 13 or something, it would be 100%.
We've talked to a few contractors, actually.
Pretty
that's-
much
That's
conforming.
Yeah, we already had it.
We've had contractors out. We originally weren't even gonna do this process, and one actually said, you won't be happy. You just won't, by the time, you know, you're gonna lose some footage because when they put the drywall up and everything, he said, you wouldn't be happy with that. He wouldn't even wanna do it.
We have a certified plot plan with 10 by 13 and a setback on it. We actually did
Yeah,
that.
we went as far, because that's what we were thinking that, you know, I know
Just
it's
do
hard to
10 by
get a
10.
variance. We
Have you
probably
looked at,
shouldn't.
like, what a 14 by 14 would do, and how?
We'd still need a variance.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but instead of asking for 6 feet of relief, would you be asking for 3 feet of relief, or?
I guess I would be
Yeah,
looking to
yeah.
you, like,
Yeah.
what size would you think we
Well, let
could?
me ask
We
you
would be
this.
happy with that, yes. we
And
would.
again, far be it from me to tell folks how to build their own home. But with regard to setback lines, it looks like your proposed addition would fit very nicely next to the, oh, is there a septic there?
That's,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
where the
yeah.
Just so
septic.
you know, septics are not a hardship, because you can move septic systems.
Yeah.
Just
How
the
old's
cost
the
of it.
septic system?
And again,
It's old as the house.
Yeah, it's over
So
the
it's
house.
over the
can't
house, so
be-
you might be needing a new one and just put it in the front yard.
It's just all the plumbing also has to.
Because all the plumbing starts
We
in there.
talked to someone about that too, and we actually called a couple of septic companies to come and let us know what they thought, and they didn't think.
Yeah, I'm in, decline not to, vote for this because I know, some other very nice people, they were just in here and they had the corner lot, they had the dirt road, and, we didn't vote for that one either. So it would be hard for me to say no for that one and yes to this, even for that, when their house would have looked nice too.
So even if we changed the size, so
Sure.
no variance at all, or?
Well, what I would
guess that's
suggest is, if, you've already heard from 2 members that we have some concerns. We haven't heard from the other members, but they don't have to necessarily voice their opinions yet. But what I would suggest is, if you had 2 folks that voted against it, it would fail.
Okay,
And rather than get a no vote, which would prevent you from coming back here for a period of
2 years.
2 years, you have an option. You can try to make it set up in such a way that, you know, withdraw your petition, your application, try to do it within the setbacks, then you wouldn't have to come before us. Or, now I'm not necessarily saying I would vote for it even if you reduced it, as long as if it still violates the setbacks, but you have at least one member who's indicated that if you kind of tried to tweak it a little bit, he may consider it. So I guess you can either move forward and have us take a vote and see where the chips lie. You can ask for continuance and come back with something adjusted to see if
So like
that,
a 14 by 14 or?
to see if that satisfies the folks on the board. Or, yeah, you can either continue it, withdraw it, or go forward on a vote and take your chances. But if it gets denied, you gotta wait 2 years before you try to come back again. You know, personally, I'm really hard pressed to grant a variance on these circumstances. Now, I have granted them in the past, even though, you know, even though the hardship criterion was a little weak, when there's been mistakes made on behalf of the town and you're kind of stuck with them. So I guess the hard ass in me would say, well, we're not gonna continue the mistake, but I have, because I felt that the folks shouldn't be punished by being told or done something erroneous from the town. That doesn't appear to be the case here. So, you know, I'm inclined to vote against it, but I don't wanna speak for the other members of the board. So if they wanna opine as to maybe something that's less intrusive on the setback, they might consider it. You know, you can try that. But I kind of, for the first time in a long time, I think I kind of agree with what the planning
and
board
you
is
know,
saying.
and it's funny, Valerie said, when she handed it to me, she said, we're trying to be helpful and give our opinion. Because remember, we were saying how for the other big cases in front of us, we really want some dialogue.
Right.
And that's what she said. She said, and, cause I was reading it and I'm going, wow, geez.
Right. Well, I looked at this and I was like, wow. I looked at it myself. I'm like, usually I look at the planning board recommendation, I go like that.
So I think,
Yeah.
I think short of moving the septic system, and relocating the addition to the back corner, there really doesn't appear, seems pretty clear that there's really no other options other than reducing the size of the proposed addition. And yeah, I'm more towards the other side. I would be more inclined to vote for it at a, you know, at something that if you came back and made some compromises, and, I mean, it's 34 feet. We've had some come in here where they wanted something much less. To me, this is very reasonable. You know, the shape of the lot is you know, it's the shape of the lot, and, you know, I would be, I guess, maybe more inclined to vote for it, but I'd like to see the, you know, see if you could reduce the size of it a little bit, and that's my opinion.
Actually, 'cause I was looking at your, so I wonder if you couldn't, I'm not sure where, you know, the septic is in that back corner, but you have a deck there. Why not you not have as big a deck? You could kind of put it in the back. And then
Where
you
the
still-
deck
It would
is?
still
Yeah.
be a variance, I think.
No, because you'd be inside, you could,
You'd have to put it over here.
yeah.
And I think, I mean, I don't know where the septic is, but I'm assuming the septic system is there.
It is right
They
next to
left
the
the
deck.
tank, yeah, left of that.
It's a tough one. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough one, but I've been in this position a long time, and, you know, I've had to make calls on tough ones and walked out of here not feeling so good about myself, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So, I mean,
Sit in my chair every day.
But you got variance for the pool, you got variances for the deck, variance for 2 decks,
Well, we didn't,
yes?
those were just permits, we didn't
Yeah.
have to get
Permits.
variances.
Oh.
they're not permanent
And
structures.
the road was in when we
Permit,
got those. And
Tony, would you be, I don't know if the other board, I know Tony said you would be open to any relief of a smaller addition. I was just wondering, I don't know how it'll look, but if they kicked it forward a foot, that'd
They
keep the
can't.
40 feet off the frontage, no?
Is it 40 feet now?
It's 41.
Oh,
Yeah, they have a foot of
41.
play over there, but it wouldn't line up
And
with the
then
I
house.
think I think there's a
Right, yeah, I
cantilever.
mean, I just said, I don't know how
There's a
it's gonna
cantilever
work.
on the, there's a
Kicking out a
cantilever on the
foot.
second floor.
And the other thing would then take a 14 by 14 variance. You know, if the board felt in the 14, that would give you an extra, you would gain less by, that'd be one.
If you kick it forward, right? If you
Kick it
put
forward,
yeah.
go
Yeah,
foot and
you'd
then
be
go
less
down.
than, you're asking for 6, you'd be close.
And you just
I
gotta-
feel
get the
like that
variance.
we're trying to make this, like, work, we're doing the work, like, what are we doing?
I think what these members are doing, and I feel for them, I get it, I think they're trying to find a way to
See, what I was
kinda-
surprised about is, I was surprised what Tony said. If I'm understanding it right, this whole subdivision had a variance on all new construction.
on just about every lot, on the area, it's an R20 zone. So
Yeah.
what they were doing is they were coming in with official map cases, and they were subdividing, so they weren't putting these blocks together of 20,000 square feet. They were taking 16,000 square feet and
Oh, getting a
18,000
variance on the
square
acreage.
feet. Coming for a variance, coming for the official map for the roadway, lot by lot. So even though you own one lot, you were the same builder, but that was Joe, that was Ted, that was Arnie. And
So-
that's what they did through this whole thing. And someone would buy a couple of lots in it, and this. So when you look at Ohio, New Hampshire, Vermont, Russell, if you look, almost every single one has an official map case and some kind of a variance, whether it was for area, setbacks. Some of the lots, they have a huge lot compared to some of them that
Right.
they took a corner, like their corner, and put 3 lots there. They're all just 10,000 square feet, and they just got the house in and the septic in. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
So that's the
So
perfect,
being a related incident, what we just discussed, like you asked the question, did anybody from the town say there was, wetlands or conservation or whatever in that
No.
road? I mean, to me, that's like an argument where, right off the bat, town shouldn't have been allowing these variances to happen with these undersized lots. What we did is we created a bigger subdivision by not going with the square footage like if it's half acre.
I'm gonna check,
Yeah,
I
you know-
have
you know
gone
what I'm
through
saying?
every
We already-
single Board of Appeals case since 1934, because I have put it into the computer. And I am going to say that in the 50s, almost every subdivision, and I'm talking subdivision, has variances on some of the lots. And they would come with one variance request, and there would be 16 lots involved, whether it was a front yard setback, area, and stuff like that. This is subdivisions, so it's been something that occurred. So when it evolved that new members came and stuff like that, it's like now you really have to be so careful, because you don't want to do what they did before. You know, they gave the store away. You don't want to keep perpetuating the wrong stuff. So every time you find out something new, it's like another, okay, now we have to look at this. Now we have to look at that. Groundwater protection districts, that was another thing. Just every time, there's always seems to be something.
Yeah, codes keep getting more involved.
And what happens
it
is when
declines with the
people
old
come
code.
in and they make a request, I have to go to the file. And when I go to the file, I look, there's Board of Appeals stuff there. So I see the history. So that's usually why you have to have the letter. And I was trying to explain to Jackie, the letter from the building inspector tells them you either need a special permit because you're non-conforming, or you need a variance. And that's why it's that some are special permits, non-conforming, and you're looking at it differently. Variances, that means there's usually a variance on the lot, or you're going into a setback, and that's when that kicks in.
I think in my opinion, that kind of like proves why I definitely would say no, because it's already a variance. There's already things that have actually, they already had liberties of having that area as a variance. It doesn't mean that you have to, that I would continue, as a board member to say, oh yeah, just keep going. Like that's my opinion.
Anybody else care to
Yeah,
weigh in?
so I would look at it more as, so the gentleman across the way got a variance, and it sounds like that whole lot area was a mixed mass of variances across it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, the town, the Board of Appeals has set a precedence as to.
No, you can't go by precedent, John.
No, but I'm saying it appears that it's been the case in that area because of the type of lots that they have and all of that. And so, all of a sudden, we wake up one day and we're gonna say, we're gonna do it by the letter of the law. And I can see that, I get that point. But in this particular area where there's been so many variances and so many changes and so many different options within that area, to me, morally, it's hard for me to say no when we, the people, have granted variances across the street. And now we're saying they can't. So so that's where I'm getting hung up.
And I hang up on the fact that when it was built with a variance. Now, the house as it sits today meets the setbacks, which is a good thing. So the only thing that doesn't meet anything is the area, and they got a variance for that. So it's, for me, it's very hard to say, well, yeah, you can have a variance, because they gave them for pools, they gave them for decks, they gave them for 2-car garages, they gave away the store. But again, that was 20 years ago.
So when was the line cut?
I'm going to tell you, probably when Charlie started, because what happened was all the old guard was slowly leaving the board, and it was all newer people, and that's when it was like, because Charlie had legal experience and he did stuff like that.
I was just gonna say that, he's an attorney.
He's an attorney, but he also did house things and stuff like that. So he kind of got the handle on the non-conforming and the variance. So that's when it started getting a little bit tougher, the 90s. in 2000. That's when it was, the variants they weren't giving them out every time someone came and requested it, so.
Yeah, even our neighbor in Kansas got a variance for their pool they put into. So
And
next
this-
to us,
and-
across from us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
A lot of them did
And,
have
but all of the
variances.
variances for the pools, there's a caveat to it. Once the pool is taken down, the variance is no longer valid, and that's what they used to say, for the life of the pool.
This
Or
is
the life
built-
of the
this is
deck,
built in.
if it was a temporary thing.
Then I question, when you say, we're doing a variance to a variance.
Yeah.
I absolutely don't understand the legal aspect of that. How can you do a variance to a variance?
Well, that's,
So, you know, it sounds good, but I don't understand the legal end of that. I don't understand how you can do a variance to a variance.
that's been my dilemma, because the property already has a variance. So it's even with the special permit, when something's non-conforming, I still say, just because you look at it a different way, when is enough enough? So you have a 2-story dwelling, 24 by 24, and gee, I'm non-conforming, so I'm gonna add a 24 by 24 2-story addition to this. When is it enough to, because you're only looking at it, is it any more detrimental to the neighborhood? Well, sometimes it is, because it's like double the size of what's there.
But
So
this is not the case.
this is not the case, but it's still the idea that there's already a variance in place. And it was granted for the right reason, because they didn't have the area. Should they have granted those variances for those houses? I don't think so, but they did.
Well, should
Yeah,
they have granted that neighbor's variance?
No,
Okay, so the board granted that. So now we're saying that the people across the street in that particular area, we're not gonna do that anymore.
Well,
And to me, it's just a
you have to take each one by itself.
Well, see,
It's a
see,
variance
it's hard for me-
request.
It's hard for me to do that.
I get that.
Because
But
it's.
you're going by precedent, though.
Well,
You're
I'm
going
going
through.
by with an issue of fairness, okay? If you do it for one in a particular location, not variance in the town, but if you do it for one across the street, then how can you say no to the one on the opposite side? I mean, I don't know how you can, in my mind, morally do that.
Well,
okay?
Tom, the other thing, it works in the opposite.
Yeah.
I've been here, like I said, for a dozen years, and we've had folks come in with just as compelling a case as this one,
Yeah.
and they've been told no. So how can we grant this one when we've denied in the last 12 years? I can count them on 5 hands, the ones that have come in here, and I crawled out of here on my belly feeling like a jerk.
But you've
But
also
you-
said you let them go.
The only times that if it does, first of all, the shape of this lot isn't that extreme. It's almost a perfect triangle, so it's not that unusual. And the times where I have granted a variance is when the folks that have come before me have been told something by the town that was either erroneous, and they've come to rely on that, and then I say, you know what? I'm not gonna, as a member of the town board, as a representative of the town, if these folks were told something wrong by a previous building inspector
No, I
or a
get
town
that.
official,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? They relied on that to their detriment, screw it, I'm
Right.
giving them their variance.
Right.
And that's why I asked if some of these things were represented to them by a town, because then I'd be like, you know what? You got it. But that's not the case here. So I'm looking at it the opposite. If I say yes, what about those 30 other cases that I've heard that, that I said no to? Now they're going to be like, hey, that guy, I remember that jerk. He sat on mine and he wouldn't give it to me. At some point, you have to kind of follow the law, even if the law hurts sometimes. Just because the previous board was giving them out like candy, what do they call it? The good guy variances. Hey, you're a good guy, here's your variance, right?
Mhm.
Just because they were doing that doesn't mean that I should perpetuate that, or Wilmington's gonna look disastrous. I mean, at some point, you gotta tighten it up. So that's where I'm coming from on it,
So
Can I
can-
just ask this gentleman, what year did you get your variance granted for your addition?
2000,
Yeah, see, it was just
And
a.
how many feet were you asking for?
maybe 6.
How many?
Within 3 to 6, I don't remember.
36?
Yeah.
Very similar.
I'm gonna make a suggestion, and this is what I make to most people. If you can go to town meeting and rezone it, you would be doing, if you get enough of your neighbors that have the smaller lots, any lot under 20,000 square feet, there's a lot of them there. Go to town meeting and change the zoning. Then your setback is 30 feet from the streets. You know what I'm saying? Because
And I
that would
would
make it
vote aye.
R10. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's not just you going to town meeting. You get everybody in a block or 2 blocks or whatever. Everybody, and I'm going to tell you, almost every lot that doesn't have 20,000, except the Aspen, because that was a subdivision, a real subdivision. But go to
Only
the
one
other
corner
ones.
of my addition needed the variance, the front part, like, basically like hers.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just
no,
need
it
the
sounds
back
very
corner.
So
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion. That you would be doing yourself and your neighbors. That it's hard for the board to keep granting and this is why I usually suggest this. It gets harder and harder for them to say, yeah, you can have a variance if there's a simple solution. And one of the simple solutions that I find is if you can get at least 10 of your neighbors to rezone a portion from R20 to R10. There's a lot of small lots down there, and
How hard is that to do?
Yeah.
you go
Happens all the
down
time.
to planning. You ask them, how do I get a warrant article, and she will help you through it. Tell her you want a zoning change, you want to change the zoning. You know,
And the meeting is this spring,
and they
so-
start, so you wanna go to town meeting in May, and everything's due by February, so you wanna go now, go to your neighbors, all the ones with the small lots, and you say, let's go for rezoning, and that gives everybody a break, so it loosens up the setbacks.
And if
30
you
feet
just-
frontage.
And hold on, if you do consider doing that, then I would strongly suggest you withdraw this. Because I don't know, if something's rezoned, is that, the 2-year prohibition
They'd be able to
isn't.
do it by right.
They can do
Oh,
it
if
right
you
away.
rezone, you could do it by right.
Well,
If you
no,
come in
because
with
it's,
something.
the lot would still be well, no,
It would be-
No,
it would be
no,
conforming.
you're right.
It'll-
So they
as
would be
long
able
as
to
they
do it
meet
by
the
right.
setbacks.
You're right. You're
That's
right.
what they have to meet. Instead of like 40 on both, it'd be 30 on both. So you have a little bit more play. And a lot of the small lots down there would be the same.
I still
They
would suggest, you've already heard from 2 members that were not inclined to grant it. That would kill it. So what I still suggest that you probably withdraw it, regardless of what you decide to do, whether you want to reconfigure it, whether you want to see if you can do it within the setbacks, or whether you want to petition town meeting to change the zoning. I still would say the safe bet, if it were me,
Withdraw it.
I would withdraw it, and then you can come back at any time. If you go forward and you get denied, unless you rezone it, you're not gonna be able to come back for 2 years.
And it's an option. You gotta wait
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah,
But-
our only issue is it's to move my sick dad in, so I don't think I have that time. So,
Is this
unfortunately.
addition for an office or a bedroom?
It was for the office on the 2nd floor, but the ground floor was for my dad to move in
Bedroom?
for a
Right.
bedroom.
Oh, yeah, I think I was just thinking, I mean, it's just looking at your draw-off line is you build it just right on that line like that, believe it or not, and see if you can squeeze in much of a closet here and see how much room you still would have for that major
Do it-
bedroom over it. yeah.
Build it with the.
I've seen it
With the.
I've actually
diagonal.
seen houses built, found out that they built to the property line, and actually seen these corners get cut off.
That's what happened on Middlesex Avenue. There was a house on
Oh, yeah,
Middlesex,
that one too, yeah.
on Longview.
Yes, yeah.
And they subdivided it.
I've
And they
seen
said,
a
well,
couple,
before you
yeah.
subdivide it, you gotta
Cut it.
cut it off. They took a whole corner slice out of the garage addition that they put on because it didn't meet
And
zoning.
you'd be surprised though, you would think, you look at that and you say, wow, I don't have the room. Then actually when you go in, cause I was there on that site and a couple others, and, you'd be surprised what you could actually build in, just for one room or an office.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, in your head you say, I gotta have square. But you'd really be surprised what you can rectangle out on these. So it's an option. I mean, you're only off by 6 feet, and I don't know if you could ask the building inspector, sometimes they don't count the inner part of the foundation, they count the outside.
I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
I mean, you could ask them that 10 inches, if that saves you 10 inches, you know, on that part, how he calculates that. Some count it, some don't.
The other thing too is that the inside wall, sometimes you can move the wall
Yeah.
to give more room to the addition part and less room where you are, and then later on, just open it all up again, so.
Yeah, so I mean, these things being on those sites, they caught me out when they looked at that, I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah, and that's why.
Yeah, I seen that same thing, it was a family room, and they had to cut it off to sell the lot.
Yep.
And, no one would touch it, but after it was done, I said, gee, it didn't look bad,
Yeah.
you know?
They said, this is gonna look horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not gonna see it from the frontage.
Anybody else have anything further to add? Any member want to be heard, anything?
Dan, do we make a motion or do they?
Well, I'm gonna ask these folks what their pleasure is. If you wanna have us put it to a vote, we can do that. If you wanna withdraw, you can do that. If you want a continuance, to try to come back, but honestly, I'd be looking for something within the setbacks. I can't speak for anybody else, but, so it's kind of up to you what you wanna do with it.
Withdraw. We'll withdraw.
You wanna withdraw?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion from the
Right.
board?
I wanna continue.
The applicant has verbally requested that their application at this point be withdrawn. Do I have a motion from the board to that effect?
So moved.
Or you have to give a motion to allow the
Motion.
applicant to withdraw their application?
Motion to,
Allow the applicant to withdraw their
allow the applicant to
Without
withdraw,
prejudice.
without prejudice.
without prejudice. Do I have a second on that?
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough call, and believe me, I hate, when I see a variance on the docket, I hate it. Because I know that unless there's something that's really crystal clear, I'm gonna be disappointing somebody. But, you know, I can't, you know, if I grant it for you, then I've done a wrong to all these other folks. And not only that, I'm gonna have to grant it to everybody else going forward, and it's tough, it's tough. Sitting up here sometimes is a hard thing, so.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks
All
for your
right.
time.
Sure,
Take
thank
care,
you.
folks.
Yep.
I need to. All right, we have, some minutes.
All right, that completes the regular agenda for the meeting. Do we have any administrative business, Tony?
I have some minutes. I have the minutes from, let me start here, hold on a second, because I have a bunch, because I keep forgetting. We have May, June, August in executive session. So May 9th,
Was everybody present there?
Dan, Tom, Tony, Jackie, and Ray.
All
Yep.
right, motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, is that what you said?
Yeah, May 9th, June 13.
If everybody was present and all of them, we can do them all at once.
There. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's May, June, and August.
Of 2018. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May, June, and August 2018?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from May, June, July, August
2018.
2018.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes as, for those 3 months is approved.
Now,
are
on the
approved.
executive session, is that something that we have to vote on?
Which, can I take a peek at that?
Yeah, sure. I'm still,
Is this
yeah, we're not.
issue still
yeah.
before? I don't know if this is proper to vote to
Okay,
open these up.
I just took it just,
Okay, why don't you, just for the record, these are minutes of August 8th, 2018, an executive session regarding pending litigation. I believe that litigation is still pending. Can you check with Jonathan?
it is. I know it is, because I haven't
No,
heard
check,
it.
hold on.
Yeah.
I know it's still pending myself, but can you check with Jonathan as to the proper timing when we can vote to make these minutes public?
When can we vote?
All right, so we'll table that until we get
Yep.
council's okay on that.
Yep,
Anything else?
that was it for
All
me.
right, so our meeting of the third, right, or no, the 10th, excuse me, is canceled. We've now continued that meeting to October 17th. And I think that's all. I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this time. Do I have one?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, seconded?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.